Spoken Labour.
I went to sleep that night without knowing it would be the last night I ever spent in that bed at my parents' house in London. Meredith, my mum shook me awake. The room was dark, making it obvious it wasn't morning yet, or not time to get up for school anyway. Mum, I mumbled in my half-asleep state. It's time to go. Everything I told you about those stories is true. It's time for you to leave us so you can train to be a protector. Your dad and I, we've done everything we possibly can to prepare you.
First Charge is the first book in the Destiny Initiative series by Amanda Steele. The book can be purchased in paperback from Amazon. The ebook can also be purchased on Kindle, Kobo, Apple Books and many others. Spoken Labour.
Have you ever thought about what Santa Claus would be like as a zombie? Or maybe you've wondered how he would cope with climate change, Brexit, or any number of issues facing the UK and beyond. Probably not, but if you're now wondering, you can buy The 12 Deaths of Father Christmas by Amanda Steele. It's a collection of flash fiction stories with accompanying images in which Santa dies in different ways. There's a political slant to many of the pieces and added sarcasm. This is not for children.
Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas! Ho, 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 ho.
Spoken. Thank you today for tuning in to Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up at the beginning of 2016 and as of recording has over 200 sessions in our archive. Although the podcast can be heard on Anchor, iTunes, Apple, Spotify, YouTube and literally 10 or 11 other networks, the full archive can be found at Spoken Label, all one word, spokenlabel.bandcamp.com. On Bandcamp, it is set as pay what you want, so you are entitled, if you wish, you can download it or stream it for nothing. But if you throw me a couple of pennies my way, it is always eternally grateful to help me maintain the operating costs and future running costs of this podcast. Enjoy.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house on Zoom again today. We're quite reasonably local for once today. So after some performances of me all over Europe and the world, I'm back quite close to where I used to grow up actually. So this gentleman doesn't know that. The gentleman I'm chatting to today, I don't realise I actually grew up in Cholton. I wasn't born there and lived there, but my uncle used to live down St Clement's Road, so I tend to know it very well around there. So I've got Mike Boo with us today. Mike's been brilliant because been one of the regular supporters of Speakeasy in our literature open mic night in Stretford that me, Amanda and Steve runs. Pretty well since me and Steve took it over it and Amanda later. So he's been one of our stalwart supporters and I've always wanted to get him in for a session. And he's that quiet and shy. He's never got round to it. So Mike, seriously, introduce yourself, mate. Tell everybody who you are, where you originally came from and where you are now and what led you onto your writing. We'll take it from there.
Oh, thanks, Andy. And first of all, thank you very much for having me on this. It's a real nice luxury to be able to talk about myself and then read my poems. So it's a real treat. So thank you for inviting me. I'm Mike Booth. I've been going to the Speakeasy reading groups for about 4 or 5 years. And I originally was from down south. I moved up to Manchester when I was about 14, went to school in Salford. And had a bit of a culture shock. And one of the poems I'm going to read later on is partly about the northern culture. And I'm an English teacher, so I've spent a long time studying poems and teaching poems and learning the classics and all of that. I suppose the highlight of my poetry career was in my primary school years. When I was 10, I had 3 poems published in the primary school magazine. And then, of course, I stopped writing because life gets in the way and you just think your stuff is rubbish and you're not going to do it anymore. But in the last 5 years or so, I've started and I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great thing. Lots of great people and inspired by the people around me that I'm hearing as well.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure hearing your stuff, Mike, because anyone that knows Mike's work, he's one of the most versatile writers I know, actually. And it's great because you don't know what he's going to come out with all the time, and that's in a good way, right? So, no, that's brilliant. That. So, like I said, I know you told me before, like your first open mic night was actually not a Speakeasy, was it? You went down to the Waterside Centre in Sale, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd been writing a few poems and just thought I don't know why I had the impulse to go and try to share them and read them to somebody. So I just thought, I think I'll Google it. And how do you get into a spoken word night? And I went very nervously to the Waterside Theatre in Sale, and there was a very friendly little group there. And I went quite a few times, and they were very welcoming. But 5 or 6 people originally, and then it grew a bit. And then I can't really remember how I got in touch with Speakeasy, but I love the atmosphere of Speakeasy. And again, when I first went, there was 4 or 5 people there around a table just sharing their stuff, but it's grown and grown, and there's a fantastic range of things happening there now, and it's all gone on Zoom now, but really inspiring. We get a good 20 to 30 people most nights, don't we? And Andy and Steve Smythe do a great job running it.
Yeah, it's true. True. I wasn't sure if you understand, we talked about stuff like before, whether you knew Steve before obviously Speakeasy, because I know you and Steve got on really well, you do. And like I said, it shows you sometimes like it was then you can make friends with poetry circuits without even realising sometimes.
I really have made lots of good friends through it. It's been very a great asset to my social life as well, although all on Zoom at the moment, but it's nice to have a drink afterwards with people and chat about anything, but hear how other people are writing as well.
Yeah, Triple our friend Reggie always uses the word drink, don't they? Get you drunk if you're not careful. I know you told me before, obviously, you've been in some choirs or something as well, weren't you? So I know you've not just done writing, you've done other creative stuff, haven't you, as well?
Yeah, I'm in 2 choirs. I've got one of the T-shirts on at the moment for the Rhythm of Life Choir, which is based at the Christie Hospital. And we're still going on Zoom as well, once a week. And we were doing lots of performances. We were in Cold Feet a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago. And the other choir I'm in is called the Quarter Notes, which is in the Northern Quarter. So I suppose poetry and singing have been the 2 new passions that I've had in the last 4 or 5 years, which have really inspired me.
Interesting. Now, okay, so I find it interesting. I'll come to your poetry in a minute, but what made you want to actually go and do the choirs? Was that something? Okay, it's quite different to obviously doing stand-up, doing your poetry and stuff like that.
Well, very similar in some ways, because I used to sing in a church choir and I'd not sung for years and years. And then I just thought I need something new to inspire me. And I think I went to see a choir, or a friend brought me along to a choir, that was it, in the Rhythm of Life. And I really enjoyed it, and very good fun, lovely people. So I've been really enjoying singing. My voice isn't good enough to sing solos or anything like that, but it's all sort of close harmony and great fun. It's not really performance, it's an endorphin choir, so it makes you feel good. And I'd say the same about the poetry, reading it, but also listening to it makes me feel good. So it's all been a feel-good project, if you like.
Yeah, like I said, it's interesting that because you do stuff like that, because it certainly does keep you very, very busy. Like I said, you do your choir thing. Are they both on every week, are they, or is it just?
Yeah, they're every week, Monday and Wednesday, and sometimes I would go to the choir on Wednesday and then jump on the tram and get to Speakeasy straight afterwards. So do the choir and then poetry in one evening.
Wow, that's some going. That it must be. I said, well, fair play to you, mate. Definitely that one. So no, it's like, and you've also been a regular member of the workshop me and Amanda do as well, haven't you, as well? So.
Yeah, I'm loving those. It's a really nice informal group, and we have a really good laugh, and it's all writing in a time scale of 10 minutes or something like that, and then we just share each other's work, and it's good fun.
Have you ever gone to a writing workshop like that before? Then have you?
No, not really. I mean, I've taught creative writing where I do something similar, where we kind of one thing I do is called mindful writing, where you just look around the room that you're in and describe it in every way that you can, using all the senses and spotting small details that only you can spot. But I've never experienced the workshops like that myself, and they're very stimulating.
Yeah, they really can get you going. So I know obviously you said before you're an English teacher, aren't you? So with that, did you always intend to be an English teacher when you're growing up, or has that come later in life as well?
Oh, I'm still not sure what I want to do when I grow up. I thought I'd do it for a few years, and I've done 30 years or something at it, and it's a wonderful job, but it's a very stressful job sometimes as well. And it's been my passion, but I think when I did my degree, I was just reading everything I was told to, and now I'm kind of trying to select the things that I enjoy most. I still don't read as much as I should or could, but English teaching's certainly given me a good gift of the gab, if you like, an ability to analyse and explore things.
Yeah, I think you do. And this when you're doing this sort of degree, like, obviously, it forces you to think things in a more analytical way. And I know about my own writing as well. So I've learned a lot of that from doing workshops over the years. So I know exactly what you mean there. So when you were growing up, then, did you have any sort of writers and poets that you really liked, or that have proved to be ongoing influences? I know Dylan
Yeah.
Thomas is one of your big favourites, and
Yeah,
we're going to hear that later.
Yeah, I'm going to read that one. I remember seeing a production of Undermilt Wood when I was a student, and it blew me away with the clever wordplay and the rhythms and the sounds of it. That was a really powerful moment. And I studied Tennyson for A level. I remember that having quite an impact. But I don't think when I was younger I had that much contact with poetry. It was I went on I did go on a writer's workshop when I was a teacher in the 90s with Simon Armitage, and it was at Lumbank, the residential centre, where you just gathered around and you went for walks, and then the students would write stuff based on it, and that kind of inspired me. But it kind of was always just in the background until more recently. And I think one of my biggest inspirations at the moment has been Kay Tempest. I've seen them a couple of times, and they're amazing. Just the fluency of how they produce the poetry. It's just awesome.
Yeah, massive change. Kay Tempest has done a fantastic job changing the poetry landscape. Kate and a few of them more younger sort of poets at the moment. It's changed everything. And it's...
Yeah, I've just been reading her poem on their book on connection, which is a brilliant description of performance and connection and creativity. And I highly recommend it to anybody. It's a very readable book. You could read it in no time.
Has it impacted your own work, Kate's work, has it all?
I did try to write a couple in that sort of style, kind of. I even tried. I think you were there when I did one with music background.
Oh, yes, yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I just thought it's worth experimenting with different styles, and the other one that's been an influence has probably been William Blake, who writes in a very straightforward, simple rhyming pattern, much more conventional. So some of my poems tend towards rhyme like his. But yeah, I like you said, I try to be versatile. I try to find different styles, some funny ones, some moving ones, some deeper ones, some kind of rhyming ones. Rhyme is my big bugbear. I always get drawn back to rhyme. And
oh, I know, but you make it. The difference is, Mike, you make your rhymes work. When you hear some rhyming poetry, you know yourself, the rhymes are forced and they can be really, really bad. Yours is one of the few. You're one of the few writers I know that doesn't do that. You make it work for yourself.
Oh, thank you, Andy. That's very kind of you to say so. Yeah,
no,
I'm trying to develop a more subtle use of rhyme, where it's not always just the end words that rhyme. And some of the people at the creative workshops and people like that have inspired me to develop my poetry style a bit more. So I'm hoping to be still learning.
I think as a writer, it's always a good thing that it's a good writer will admit the work is still developing. It always will be developing. So if you stand still, you'll always be walking around in circles, and it's healthy for a writer. That now, I know obviously you're a family man yourself, aren't you? So Zach, is your writing pattern as and when you get chancing, really? Is it you running around after your family and lunatic kid and your lunatic kitten you were telling about the other day as well?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids and a cat, and it's a busy life during the day, so I don't tend to write very much during the day. My writing tends to be late in the evening, or if I'm on a train or a bus, or if I'm waiting somewhere. And it actually started when I wasn't sleeping. I think, like a lot of people in the poetry scene, I'd had a difficult time and experienced a lot of trauma, and I was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I started just doing the blog, writing stuff on the blog, and then I thought I'll try to put it into a poem about how I was feeling, and then the poems went onto their own blog. And so I often do early morning writing sessions. If I wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, that's when I can write, when it's nice and quiet and you don't have distractions.
I know Amanda does it at 2 or 3 in the morning. She does. She wakes up way before I do, and I do it when she goes to bed, because our sleep patterns are completely different. So that's when it's like it's whatever works for a certain person, isn't it? So
yeah, I've got to mention one other person is Leonard Cohen. So sometimes everyone thinks he's music to slit your wrist by, but sometimes I'd go down and put his music on, and that would be very inspiring with his brilliant wordplay and his poetry, really, and I'd be listening to him while I was writing sometimes. So he's great.
No, definitely that one, John. Do you find that obviously when you're writing such a varied amount of work, and yours is, you really are varied. I keep preaching, but when you sit down to writing, do you have any sort of directions you want to go, or is it just do you sit down when you're writing in the morning thinking what just go with the flow base?
Isn't it? I was thinking what inspires me, and sometimes it's a phrase that comes into my head. One of the phrases I've been dwelling on quite a lot is "fingers crossed," and I'm thinking if I ever release an anthology, it would probably be called "Fingers Crossed."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Topical for our times, so it might be a little phrase that comes into our heads, or It might be a line or a rhyme or a person that you've met or something you've seen in the news or heard about. So, and then it seems to just come in a rush when I write. I just pour it all out. I don't quite know where it's going until I kind of get to the end of it, and I don't edit it that much afterwards. And sometimes it doesn't help that much to edit, does it? You kind of can take the life out of it if you take changes and things like that. So it tends to, some of them that I'll read today have just been poured out really fast.
I think the things that you tell already, because you've done your background as a teacher and also your student days, your analytical brain will probably bring it out probably fairly quick. Sometimes it'd be to a reasonable level, won't it? So that's why.
Sometimes you get a feeling you can never finish it, though. It can always be changed and always improved and always played with and amended. So you can kind of get a bit of a, not quite writer's block, but editor's block, I suppose, where you're trying to make it better and better and think this phrase could be tighter, but that way lies madness, I think, because you're constantly trying to amend and recreate what you've written.
Yeah, I think so as well. Sometimes a case where it can be too much perfection, and it's best to you take away the original train of thought, which would be overdue. Yeah,
the freshness goes, doesn't it? It becomes stale.
Yeah, you were telling me before as well, and I hope you don't mind repeating this story. I found it really, really engaging. I asked you before on a different note about your background as a writer. You were telling me about when your uncles used to be a writer, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, my uncle David, who lives in Glasgow, would write long poems and sometimes send them to me, and they were very eclectic and obscure. Sometimes you felt like you needed footnotes, but then again, it worked for Eliot, so other writers need footnotes sometimes. But yeah, he had a way with words, and I think in our family we're all pretty good talkers, and you know, we like joking and puns and things like that. So maybe that's part of my genes.
Yeah, I know you do put your puns in poems. Sometimes you can cook really beautifully as well. So, but you've done a few poems, I know. I remember, and the Dylan Thomas ones you're doing second half is definitely one of them. And I'm sure you've done 2 or 3 other poems as well, where you do in other voices, like in accents and stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do one in a northern accent as well. And I'm English language teacher, so I've learned quite a lot about accents. I'm always fascinated by the way people speak differently and think differently, so it's kind of it's part of my interest and repertoire. And sometimes I'm a bit of a plagiarist. I steal other people's ideas. So I stole Dylan Thomas's ideas, and I wrote one based on the Kipling poem about rhyme and poetry. If you can write in rhyme and not make rhyme your master, and that sort of thing. So I'm kind of just a bit of a magpie, picking up different things from different people.
I would never term stealing. I'd term it homaging, right? So, but that one definitely works. So, no, great. You've obviously hinted at before, like we used the word to put your hands crossed for. Do you ever envisage you will bring a book out together with your best pieces?
Well, I've got friends who are putting together simple collections through apps on your computer. It's very easy these days, isn't it? Some of my family have been really encouraging, saying, "Oh, you must publish and you must send them off for a book." But in some ways, the simplest way now is just to do it all self-published, really, and you can do it quite easily now, can't you?
Yeah.
I make no pretense to my stuff being great poetry, though. I think I'm flattered that anyone wants to listen to it or read it. So it's mostly been for me, just enjoying it. And if anyone has any resonance with anything that I say, that's great. But I think my family can be a bit overpraising of my skills. That's what families are for, aren't they?
Oh yeah, completely. Okay, in case of like someone like my mum and dad, I never show my poetry to them unless I'm looking at a blank face. I don't know what to say. No, I get it completely. Now you did mention before you've got a blog as well with your poetry. Is that still active, that blog, at the moment?
Yeah, I haven't put on it for quite a while. It's the Write Out Loud.
Oh, you're Write Out Loud, right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm on there. Mike Booth. Most of my stuff is on there, but I've got a bit lazy about putting things on recently. And originally I did WordPress as well, but that's not been used for a long time. So Write Out Loud is the main place. So I think it's writeoutloud.net, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I'll track that down later. I didn't know you're on Write Out Loud actually, so that's fine. And if people want to find out more about you, Mike, they're best going to your Facebook page, aren't they, and dropping you an ad and chatting to you on Zoom.
Yeah, I've not put loads out on Facebook, but you can certainly contact me on Facebook. Yeah, and I'm very happy to chat and exchange work or whatever it might be. So that's great.
And if people want to start throwing you a couple £100 here and there randomly, I'm sure you wouldn't say no either. Definitely, no, brilliant. Well, that's pretty all my questions, Mike. Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll let you take a deep breath, and I'll all just say a quick breath, and you're going to come back in a few minutes and do some of your poems for us. So.
Great stuff. Right.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
Right. Take care, guys, girls. We'll see you in part 2 in a minute.
Thanks very much.
Spoken Label.
Hi, guys. Okie dokie. Straight over to Mike. Over to you, buddy.
Hiya. Okay, well, thanks everyone. I'm just going to read 4 or 5 poems, and I'm trying to cover the range of some of the stuff I've written. And this one was written when I went to a friend's house, and we had to make up a poem in a style of Welsh poetry. And the first Welsh poet which came into my mind was Dylan Thomas, and they lived in Didsbury, this couple, lovely Andy and Jelly. And so I thought I'd write something based on Under Milk Wood by Dylan Thomas. And being on Burton Road, Richard Burton, I read one of the best versions of Under Milk Wood. I really advise people to watch it or listen to it. And so it's set on Burton Road. It's a tribute and a commentary on Didsbury. And it's called Under Parrswood. And I have to read it, I'm afraid, in a Richard Burton style Welsh accent. To begin at the beginning, or the end of the road, which is a kind of a beginning. It is spring and the mosque stands guard, though few burkers promenade its streets or frequent its bars. Its spires punctuate the sky, echoes of the old Methodist chapel, and guides the way down Burton Road. The shutters came down and the doors were locked. Towels hung on the pumps for the last time, and weary baristas and bar stewards sloped off into the night. And the once wild, so free, happy you and me street fell into a fearful freeze. It is night. Moonlit night, and all is quiet now as in the curtained windows flicker of TV as news, briefings, facts and stats wash your hands across the land. A darkness fell and all was peaceful. And now it is unlock vodka shot summer. We blink in the light, blind as moles, like bears from their holes come out into the starless and Bible black night as life slowly cranks up again. Cautious as a cat, what was that? Keep your distance, stand well back. As fairies light the bars and stars and cars which cruise to peruse the high life, my life, the suit and tie executive life of another night of possibilities on Totty Alley. Listen. You can hear the click of stilettos. Look out for white mini-skirted leopard skin wraps and slit skirts, strap tops, halter tops, non-stop. Give us a twirl, party girls, out for a night or a fight, or I just might, out on the town. Not town, but local. No taxi home, not out, but out. For a few, a bubbly or two, some prinks and planks, another drink, thanks, on Gone for a Burton Road. Arm in arm with the girls, metropolitan bound, giggles and jokes, vodkas and cokes, no coats, might get soaked, but living in hope. This could be the night to meet the one, have some fun, a fling is flung, stagger home at 1, mascara run, but stories to tell, bloody hell, gave me a bell, fit as well, all over Twitter, Insta too. Oh well, always another one, or two. Burton Road. Out come the party girls, the banter boys, the funsters, hipsters and the gym bunnies. Out from their long hibernation burrows, the nest of the best where Kenzo, Gucci, D&G are plain to see. What austerity! The barside rails with cafe chairs where the Didsbury set have always met. New iPhone sets the tone, moisturised and spray tanned. Metrosexuals at play, drink all day, guffaw and scope the bar in the hope of meeting an eye. One too shy to resist the fly, wine and dine lines at the chancer. Flyboy chats to the bouncer, but inside dying, crying out for one to share his room. Loft apartment, off-road parking, gone off sharking, charming. In banking, insurance or IT. That's Didsbury. And look again. There's JT Blaggs, bike on the roof, Phoenix on the wall, shows we will all rise and live again. And inside, all the nuts, screws and washers you could need to fix your broken life and get all those lockdown tasks finally done. Listen. Time passes. Only you can hear the laughter and music carried off in the air, past houses, cafes and bistros asleep, from the Parrswood to Parrswood, from west to east and the village, a warm glow of sun and fun only begun, as the hushed and sleepy bars of Didsbury are closing now. And Burton Road snores before opening its doors to another bright Manchester day. Thank you.
Fantastic. Did you ever envisage, Mike, when you first you wrote that one, you were doing it in a Welsh voice, or did that come later?
I think I read it at the dinner party in the Welsh voice, and I've tried reading it without the Welsh voice, and it doesn't. I don't think it works quite as well. So I think it has to have a Welsh voice. Bizarrely, to read a Welsh poem based in Manchester, but there we are. It's been rewritten a bit for the lockdown, of course. So that was revised for when we came out of the last lockdown, and right now we're heading into a longer lockdown. So.
Crazy. I was going to ask you before as well. That's a question I forgot to ask you before. Have you found that as you're writing, changed the gear since you went into lockdown?
Yeah, it's difficult to write about much else, isn't it? It's the obsession that everyone's got. So I was looking through poems to read for this, and I was finding 7 or 8 that I've written about lockdown, and it's such a dominant issue. So, but on the other hand, it's given time. I've not been working as much as I was, so I've had time and space to think and reflect, and also to notice the world around us. We've all slowed down a lot in lockdown and taken time to see the autumn colours and the kind of feelings of the area around, which is really special. Yeah,
same for me as well, because my case was I got sent home from work in March because I'm diabetic, and didn't get furloughed, so they paid me. But they said they're going to sort out work for me to do from home. It took them 3 months. So yeah. I was sat there writing and looking at trees and doing podcasts all the time.
In many ways, it's a great opportunity, isn't it, to step out of our normal routines, and but it's a frightening time. There's a lot of anxiety around as well.
Oh yeah, completely. So I agree with you completely. Right. Anyway, we're going back to the poetry, haven't we? So okay, on to your second piece, mate.
Okay. Well, from 2012, 2013, I had various troubles in life which gave me thought about death and about struggles, and I was waiting for a friend about 5 years ago, and I walked around the Southern Cemetery in Manchester between Chorlton and Didsbury, and this one is called Grave Thoughts from Above Ground. They lie so quiet in the ground, while leaves and nuts fall all around. The slanting sun, the shadows fall, the squirrels scamper, magpies call. The shortest stories ever told, their lives in stone stand out in bold. A middle name they won't confess, or all 3 names in Sunday best. No shortened forms or nicknames here, but smart and formal year on year. To sum them up, their date of birth subtracted from their time on earth. And then a caption, phrase or words, those left behind once liked or heard. Some photos too, all weathered grey, seem to suit this autumn day. The older ones are set in stone, but after what's left is bone. Some grand with angels, cherubs too, lie standing out. The people who held mighty office, fancy cars, golden letters, flowers in vase, and tended gravel tinted blue. Perhaps an odd balloon or 2. The money spent to show the loss, but in 5 years they gather moss. And side by side sleep couples snoring, who shared a bed as life turned boring. The minor quibbles, bitter wrangles, complex knives are now untangled. And all is peaceful, still and true. Just you loved him and he loved you. The years of caring in the vines are left forgotten on their shrines. The feuds of parents, siblings, kids, by loving words are somehow hid. Here lies a woman, man or child, but lying too, the verse is styled. By mason's chisel, inches deep, commit the body's soul to keep. Many never said a prayer before their parents lying there shuffled off the chains of birth to take their place beneath the earth. Muslim, Hindu, Greek and Jew, now side by side the old with new, a narrow path, a wailing wall combines the rabbis, mullahs call. Arabic, Hebrew, Mandarin, Greek sit side by side or cheek to cheek. This peaceful world where all wars cease, nirvana or a land of peace. Shangri-La where all get on, get up and go, got up, is gone. Not much gets done, but war is over, amongst the leaves, a life in clover. So one day, maybe, dark and grey, with whispers quiet, my corpse they'll lay, as teeming rain wets the plants and coats of children, wives and aunts. I hope they'll notice all around the beauty of this sacred ground. And when they visit, not too often, remember me and smile and soften. For death's a gift shall come to all, where all is clear and worries pall. We all must live and grow each day, so at my grave, let children play. Thank you.
That's a beautiful poem, that, Mike. It's also, as well, you made a good move there, I think, because it's completely different to the first piece. And it shows a variety of piece, that one. So, was that one of your earlier pieces then, was it? Did you say, was it?
Yeah, that was probably 5 years ago, I think I wrote it. And I was thinking a lot of my poems are about struggles and suffering, but also trying to end on hope and optimism, and trying to say that death is a natural thing that we all have to face at different times, and death is part of life. Again, William Blake talked a lot about opposites, that these two things exist in opposite.
Yeah, no, great. That's a great point. So it's something I think we've all got to face, and you've tackled it in a really hopeful and thoughtful way there. Definitely.
And the Southern Cemetery is an absolutely beautiful place. Again, if people have a chance to visit, I highly recommend it. It's hopefully not permanently. But
no, it's true.
It's a beautiful place just at the moment with the autumn leaves, and the colours are just gorgeous. So it's gorgeous at the moment.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite places as well, indeed. So, okay. I want to do something completely different next, aren't we?
Yeah. So this one is about the frustration of dealing with the internet. And I wrote this one about 2 weeks ago, or maybe a bit more, maybe 2 months ago. And trying to log on to anything now, you have to verify that you're not a robot, and you have to identify all the different pictures. And with my poor eyesight, I can never see where the bikes are and where the bridges are. So I called it Verify. It's a bit shorter than the other two, so it's not quite such an epic. Verify. When asked to verify, I sigh and try to picture wispy clouds as they scud across an evening sky. The deep mix of purples, blues and greens on the neck of a pigeon, or glassy bottle emerald back of a blue bottle fly. The bonding when I catch a stranger's eye. We smile and look away, but for a moment we have walked an inner mile, shared a smile, soothed a cry. The surging swelling in my chest as I hear a moving piece of music taking me out of my bones, towards where tears appear, drip unchecked down my flushing cheek. And in that heartbeat, beauty banishes doubt. The world seems fragile, alive, but all is clear. Little makes sense or carries weight, and death too is full of power. I have to steer this leaky craft with too few floats, through flowers, thorns, rocks and jagged shore, to helm my ship and make life's meaning so much more. And as I stare at screens in depths of night, thinking of what we have and what have not, how essence of our human life can feel so slight, I ponder what really makes us not robots. As with my fading eyesight I peer at grids of city sights and try to tick the boxes which show the blikes or traffic lights.
Brilliant, like it's good that again, because he said I think sometimes always good if you can write a slightly shorter piece sometimes, definitely with that one. So did you find when you were writing that one? Did you find when you wrote that one? Were you surprised at yourself you finished off a bit quicker than the other two, for example?
Yeah, I kind of thought I said what I needed to say. Sometimes I tend to drag out my poems a little bit. They often get a bit long, so I often need to trim them a bit. But that one just felt complete as far as it went. And I wasn't sure whether it was going to be a funny poem or a deep poem, and it's kind of ended up a bit more deep than funny. But I don't know if anyone else shares that frustration of... Steve Mingle read a lovely poem about the frustration of dealing with automatic checkouts. And I think that was partly in my mind when I was writing that one, the frustration of dealing with robot checking on the internet.
Steve's at his best, I think, as a writer when he's ranting. And then the piece in question we read out now, Speakeasy. He was absolutely just ranting on that one. It was great.
Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah, love his stuff. Yeah.
Very, very clever man. So, okay. Now, I think we're doing something a bit different again now, aren't we, for a fourth piece now?
Yeah. This is another accent one. You need to sip of water first.
As our friend Reggie is not here, we'll say,
drink. Right. A friend of mine's daughter went to Bristol University and felt stigmatised that she was from the north because people laughed at her accent and criticised her. And she found out there was a Northern Society at Bristol University. So that got me thinking, what would Northern Society talk about down south? So hope there's no one offended by references to the south or to the north in this, but it's just a bit of fun with stereotypes. It's kind of talking about the northern stereotypes. And I'm a naturalised Mancunian. I moved here when I was 14, so I feel very comfortable here. But this is called the Northern Society. The Northern Club meets on outskirts of town, in club with sign for Newcastle Brown. Greyhounds and whippets are tied up outside, as all things northern are treated with pride. There's chips and there's gravy and dollops of peas, nowt wrong with dripping or tripe on steak pies, no mither or skriking, no fuss and nae bother, Just old-fashioned values are, kid. That's me brother. The caps are all flat and the vowels are and all. Fat ladies are names for the bingos we'll call. And pasties and pies and Greg's sausage roll, if drafty will tell thee, put widint whole. The chair calls to order, and all stand to sing the races at Bladen or Ilkley Moor Ring. Sideboards and braces and buckets of coal. On jukebox, Oasis and rare northern soul. These exiles from homeland up north where it's grim are forced to drink lager and cocktails with gin. Now then, ladies and gents, calls boss, it's time we debated ketchup or sauce. A sofa or couch, chaise longue or settee. What time do we serve our supper or tea? And how do we say the words give us away, like castle or plastic, things every day? And is it more posh having scones or a scone? And ice cream what's served in a tub or a cone? And barn cake or muffin, a stotty or bap? What do we eat when past Watford Gap? Folk looked reet pensive, as pints they did sip, and packs of port scratchings they thoughtfully rip. Aye, they all cried, there's now tuck with that. Hear, hear, yelled Justin, the soft southern twat. The butties were brung out on tin foil for trays, as Yorkshire contingent swapped names for a spade. A pot then was brought out of steaming scouse stew, with puddings from Yorkshire and Eccles cakes too. And blood in a fryer, puddings both black and white, none of your prawn cocktails or sauces and shite. Brass band stars up, playing Hovis track, eyes turning all watery, it takes thee back. Trouble at mill, cobbles and all that, before gentrification and luxury flats. And just as debate turned to what's meant by our pants, and fights breaking out between Scousers and Manx, the landlord, fearing some mischief or crime, holding his pipe pot, yelled out, "Now it's time!" But debate spilled out on pavements and streets on why the north is so hard to beat. We talk to each other on buses and trains and discuss weather. It usually rains. So what do we do about arrogant shits who think that up north is truly the pits, who laugh at our mugs and scoff at our vowels and call our dishcloths their fancy tea towels? They tell us to put our powerhouse in order and talk about putting a wall on our border. So it's time to form our own northern party, with booze and music and all that malarkey. Enough of the ruling southern elite and Bojo and Tories in safe northern seats. It's time for rebellion, stand up and fight, 'cause life in the north is really not shite. So tell them in Bristol, in Oxford and Kent, that grim up north is not what they meant. With music and nightlife, money aplenty, our cities are perfect when living past 20. So come to where life has so much more meaning, where people ask how you are with more feeling. Grim up north, what's that you say? I'd rather live up here any old day. Thanks. That was the Northern Society.
Brilliant. To raise a lot of good points there in a very slight way, and that's that's really clever writing, excellent stuff, Mike.
Thanks.
Okay, I know you sent me two proposed set lists over before, so I'm not sure what we're going with next, but I don't mind either way, mate.
Yeah, I've slipped this one in. This one is a kind of, I suppose, romantic with a capital R and a lowercase r poem based. I was teaching Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poem "I Think of Thee," which is Sonnet 29, and then I thought about some of the people that I love, my wife, some close friends who are facing struggles, and it's really about thoughts and feelings and how we should hang on to connection and hang on to love. And it's called "I Like to Think." I like to think of sunny days and lounging on the beach. I like to think of calm, but peace seems strangely out of reach. I like to think of my past loves as drifting far from sleep. I like to think of all I've done, achievements oh so few, but most of all, in dead of night, I like to think of you. I like to think of wholesome things like exercise and games and having coffee with my friends and those who never blame. I like to ponder mysteries of what this life is for and how the sun can rise each day or waves can reach the shore. I like to lie in bed a while and think of what to do. But one thought always makes me smile. It's when I think of you. I like to hear my body breathe and feel my muscles tense. I like to close my eyes and sigh and maybe light incense and try to still my whirlwind mind of thoughts unsettling me and think pure thoughts both soft and kind to spread love outwardly. I like to find some words which rhyme and coin a phrase or two, or whisper sayings so sublime, but my thoughts turn to you. When times are tough and I feel small, I cannot face the fight. I curl up in a knotted ball and pray for end of night. But as I face the worst of thoughts of failing health and death, I know one thing will still hold force as long as I have breath. I'm happy that I knew you once, a friend so good and true. And most of all, in thick and thin, I like to think of you. My thoughts are like the frothing waves which stir and never cease. My mood is like the autumn tide which never finds its peace. I ebb and flow upon the shore, leave debris on the beach. The constant movement of my mind leaves calm so out of reach. But deep beneath, on ocean floor, where crab and lobster roam, there is a rhythm, ups and downs, which feels to me like home. Away from all the wind and rain, from crashing water too. It's there my mind will come to rest, when I will think of you.
Yeah, I can see the lyricalism of that one. So yeah, brilliant. I don't think I've heard that one before. I know most of your stuff. That one doesn't ring a bell, but again, I don't know. It's a lovely piece, definitely that. So
Thank you, mate.
what you've done there is you've took it beyond a bit. It's a homage, but you made your own voice. That makes sense, doesn't it? So
yeah. It's a bit. I mean, I'm kind of, as I said before, talking about rhymes. I'm kind of sticking to a very regular rhyme scheme in that one, but it just seemed to flow when I started writing it. So I thought I'm just going to let it happen and not fight it. And it seemed to hang together reasonably well. So I was fairly pleased with that one.
no, I can't believe it. Beautiful. Okay, what are we going to go for next then?
Right, this one, I've done 4 drafts of this, and I really, it's one which isn't regular rhyme scheme, but it's basically playing a bit with rhyme, and it's playing with boundaries about what you think is the right thing and how you behave, and lines that we have in life, and limits on behavior and limits on life. And I called it lines in the end. And here it goes. You can lose yourself without boundaries, sand without lines, no paths or signs. Slip the lead, lose the reins, and leave your compass behind. Follow your firefly heart and wallow in marshmallow words. Cushioned by caution, leap over the mark, relish the freefall of a brand new start. Hours are fragrant, full of boundless beauty, edges blurred by passport-free possibility. No checks or balances, border controls or walls to hold in your restless waiting. Wanting yet fearing to be bound, lost not needing to be found. And love changes. Love changes too. Life rearranges, dancing here with you. And here's a pedestal, statue long gone, a goddess who lives there in a song, awoken from her stony sleep, steps down to shake her sandy feet. She heard a call and blood restored with lonely chords, she sang it back, and love with hate in cauldron mixed, transfixed by lack would call her name, with pain and longing, fear and shame, I chose to steer my ship to rocks. The lifeline snapped, lashed by the sea, it splintered there and I jumped free. With fingers crossed, we choose our path each day, and lines in sand are whispered away. 2 tinder twigs so quickly caught with blended feelings, common thought. Passion grew, we lived our best, and sadness loss like widow birds with wings of lead who weave a nest from grass long dead, and mossy leaf gives us warmth and sweet relief. Burning life gives light and heat, and so our words pulse hearts to beat. I dread the loss of what was me, but as I stoop on bended knee, I lose myself, but choose the wealth of freedom through which paths arose, lit up so bright by honeyed words, and thoughts and dreams this sower sows. Let loose the limits, free like birds. And at times the path is dust, by gathered cloud and fears is lost. Single file or side by side, we wander, unleashed free. A world beyond, lost together with no guide, carefree castaways with no boundary, grains of sand carried by the soothing tide.
Thanks. Beautiful. It's got a very sort of gentle sound, that piece, and I loved it by the end of it as well. So.
Oh, thanks, Andy. It's partly Ozymandias, the Shelley poem, is the reference to the statue and things. So I was teaching that when I started writing that one, I think. So that was part of the influence. But yeah, again, it just kind of came out that way.
No, it's good. Don't have to force it as a writer sometimes. If that felt legit and like you felt it, you wrote it honestly in the best way. Yeah. Right, I think you're doing a poem about your granny to conclude with now, aren't you?
Right, it's about my mum. Who's
your mum, is it? Right. Right, yeah.
This was inspired by my sister texting me about 2 or 3 years ago saying that mum wants to take lots of selfies, and I thought that was quite funny. At the age of 92, she was starting to do selfies. So wow. It set a train of thought about technology and thinking about how Old dogs are having to learn new tricks at the moment. Everyone's going on Zoom and learning about technology. And this is a tribute to my wonderful mum, who's still going strong at 94 up in Edinburgh.
Wow.
And it's called Granny High Tech. My mum's been posting selfies at the age of 92. She's becoming all tech savvy. Well, I haven't got a clue. They say a dog can get too old to teach itself new tricks, but she's on Twitter, Instagram, even downloads from Netflix. It started in her 80s when the tablets which she took were traded in one high-tech day for a brand new iMac book. She logged onto her emails, sent me messages so sweet, attaching photos from her phone, emojis and a tweet. She went off to a night class, her notebook clutched in hand. The nice young man who helped her made her understand the joys of new technology, Wi-Fi and the rest. She came back on a Segway in a Dayglow high-vis vest. She worried she was losing it, but got a memory stick, and now it's all on iCloud. She can find it really quick. She opened up a channel on media sharing sites, and now she's earning millions. YouTube star overnight. She bought a brand new headset to live life virtually. The games she plays are tidying up and making scones for tea. She got herself a Fitbit for when she walks downstairs. He's always going on Fortnite where she gives the kids a scare. She splashed out on a bot vac which helps her clean the house. I'm sure I saw it one day being ridden by a mouse. She bought a Bluetooth speaker for Radio 4 all day. Then a new Alexa which would do just what she'd say. But now she wants to upgrade, even wants a fridge that speaks. Tells you when to order milk and when your icebox leaks. She wants to put the heating on when popping down the shops by using all the fancy apps to add to her Dropbox. She even went on Tinder to help her light her fires. The nice young chap who turned up turned out to be a liar. Her profile went on Grindr to sharpen up her knives. Graham was an odd chap, he led some secret lives. But one thing about my mum, which still quite puzzles me, with all these fancy gadgets, she still can't work TV. And finding eject buttons or play on her hi-fi is such a massive struggle, it makes her want to cry. The thing I love about my mum is not her high-tech brain. She masters every new device while staying just the same. She doesn't need her bandwidth to show such love to all. She always asks how people are each time they make a call. The way she lives her real-world life can make me feel so proud. She makes such good connection with each one in a crowd. She's such a high-tech granny, updated every day. And we all think she's magic, so smart in every way. That's for my mum, thank you.
Brilliant. Brilliant. No, it's great. In fact, your mum's still going strong at that age of 95, mate. For my dad's like 80, just turned 85, and he's doing great at the minute himself. It puts a good sign to yourself if one of your parents is living to that age. You think you help yourself, you'll be healthy yourself at a certain age, so.
Yeah, and she's got a lot of wisdom about what's going on in the world at the moment, Andy, as well. I mean, it's a crazy world we're living through, and she lived through she was an ambulance driver in the Second World War and lived through all sorts of difficult experiences, but we need some wisdom at the moment, don't we?
Oh God, yeah, completely with that one. So great stuff, that Mike. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you again, Michael, or Mike, I call you. It's been a pleasure today. I should have booked you in years ago, mate. So, but it's been a pleasure. So, Mike, guy, hang around, buddy. I need to speak off mic. This is Andy.
Thanks very much, Andy, for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure today. Been brilliant.
For all you do with the spoken word scene as well, you put a lot of work into it, so it's much valued.
Too much sometimes. But it's been a pleasure today, Mike, as always.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Bye now.
Spoken Label.